Despite a concerted push for bail reform throughout the United States, the surety industry's bail bond insurance market hasn't seen any disruption. Here to discuss a new AM Best report on the subject is David Blades, Associate Director, Industry Research and Analytics, and Michael Vallario, Associate Analyst, both with AM Best. And David, with the efforts to limit or abolish cash bail, you would think that this would be a hindrance for insurers, but it really hasn't been, has it?
No, and that's interesting, John, because again, that's kind of the first reason why we went to look at the bail bond insurance market. This year, we hadn't looked at it in the past couple of years, but we definitely want to take a look this year, specifically with regards to the criminal justice reforms and bail reforms that have gone on across the country, in different states across the country last few years, just to see kind of how that may have manifested in change within the bail insurance market. But when we looked at premiums from that perspective, premiums in 2021 were about 11.1% higher than they were, let's say, a couple of years ago. And so we've seen premiums kind of stay at that level or actually grow a little bit, even though the number of companies that are writing bail insurance has decreased by a couple. There's only, when we first looked at this market and 3 or 4 years ago, it was only about 30 companies writing it. There's only 25 writing the insurance in 2021. So again, the number of companies came down a little. I think they were up to about 28 in 2019, and then, like I said, down to 25 in 2021. So yeah, I've seen fewer companies, and again, that probably played out from different states where bail has been or where bail legislation has been passed that has largely abolished cash bail. But for the market in general, overall, we've seen the number of companies that are still in the market still be able to produce growth in the marketplace. And I think, it just shows some resilience, because there definitely have been, in a number of states, substantive legislation that's been passed to virtually eliminate cash bail. Some of that legislation is coming back and being challenged. Again, different states have been having issues from a crime perspective. So we'll continue to look at this on a going forward basis, but definitely we've still seen the market maintain its level, and actually, like I said, from a premium standpoint, grow a little bit the last couple of years.
Giving the opposing points of view when it comes to cash bail, does this pose the potential for reputational risk when it comes to bail bond insurers?
Well, I think, when you look at what we've seen from a criminal justice from reform perspective and the drive against cash bail, and obviously that involves the bail bond insurers, there's definitely some risk from the standpoint of the advocates of criminal justice reform, that there could be, that people could look at bail bond insurers negatively. So from that perspective, I guess there's some, risk from a reputational risk perspective. But the fact that a lot of the states have gone through, have debated and put ballot measures in place where the citizens have had a chance to express their opinions in terms of where their state needs to go from a criminal justice perspective. If cash bail is still in place in a lot of these states as a viable pretrial detention measure, that will bode well for these insurers, and I think that will help offset the risk from a reputational risk standpoint. So I think we'll continue looking at it, but like I said, you take the fact that, again, a lot of states have been fighting back against some of the criminal justice reforms that have been put in place, and the fact that the premiums have grown, and I think that puts some of these companies in at least decent shape, sort of fighting against or offsetting some of that reputational risk.
Michael, we hear a lot about predictive analytics when it comes to other lines of insurance. Is predictive analytics something being considered, especially for pretrial detention options?
Well, yeah, technology use becomes more relevant and complex each day that we are in this world. The use of AI and algorithms in the criminal justice industry has become more widespread along with that growth of technology. Big data and AI help with predictive policing, identifying suspects through facial recognition, and assessing the likelihood of future criminal misconduct. The algorithms include data points like the neighborhood that they live in, the age of the individual, their criminal history, employment status, and even family structure to help predict these individuals. States, with all that combined, states are able to implement a pretrial risk assessment tools to help determine if this individual is a flight risk or just in general a danger to the public, and whether or not setting bail would be a good option for this person that's detained.
For states that have passed reforms, what sort of results are we seeing?
So in New York, people have criticized their bail reform package, and they've even been criticized so much that some provisions had to be repealed in April 2020, just a few months after these were implemented. In Maryland, efforts have worked to this point so far, but with an unintended consequence of people who come in do not have the option of pretrial release because they don't want to set them. They don't want to give them bail, so instead they just keep them without pretrial release. In Alaska, there's a surge in crime rates, and in Illinois, which just implemented a cashless bail system in 2022, they're being criticized for the violent crime rise that I mentioned in the states before.
So I think just to kind of build on what Mike was saying, I do think we've seen some premium fluctuation in some of those states where bail reform was passed. But again, in other states where cash bail is still part of the legislative system, I think we've seen some premiums go up. Some from an overall perspective, we've still seen, again, like I said, some resiliency shown by this market, and we'll continue to AM Best will continue to follow and kind of see what the trends are telling us.
David, Michael, thank you for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
That was David Blades, Associate Director, Industry Research and Analytics, and Michael Vallario, Associate Analyst, both with AM Best. You can find the full report online at ambest.com. For AM Best TV, I'm John Weber.